National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Ememobong, has warned that public confidence in Nigeria's judiciary is steadily eroding, blaming the trend on politicization and the lack of accountability for public officials. Ememobong was reacting to comments by the senior special advisor to the president on public communications and orientation, Sunday Dare, who said the All Progressives Congress is not threatened by audits of its 11 years in power, arguing that many of the country's challenges predate the current administration. While Dare maintained that reforms take time to yield results and pointed to what he described as progress in democratic institutions, Ememobong countered that economic statistics alone do not reflect the everyday realities faced by Nigerians. And so to make sense of all of this, we're joined by legal practitioner Elvis Asia. Elvis, thanks for joining us and good afternoon to you. What factors must, most significantly influence public trust in the judiciary, and how can political statements by parties like the PDP affect perceptions of judicial independence?
I think public perception of the judiciary is basically the living experiences of people that engage with the courts on a daily basis. The delay in the court system. The fact that political cases can be decided as quickly as possible, but ordinary commercial cases will take forever. I think that's majorly the issue. Two major factors. One is the fact that, like I said, is the institutional lack of capacity to actually deliver justice. The judiciary does not seem to have the requisite funding, the requisite number of personnel that is required, which is also tied to funding. And that is limiting the capacity to deliver justice, and which is affecting public perception. The other issue is the fact that in most of the high-profile political cases, we have seen so many decisions that run contrary to common sense. So there's a lot of people feel that some of the decisions might be influenced. We have seen foreign shopping by politicians to get injunctions here and there, and in order to control the political space. We feel a lot of people feel that the judiciary is not able to rein in the political class, and it allows them to run the judiciary in a manner that suits their aims and objectives. I think these are some of the things shaping public opinion about the judiciary.
Yeah. I mean, how do warnings from political parties about the judiciary intersect with the constitutional principle of separation of powers at this point?
Well, I mean, the constitutional principle of separation of powers really is supposed to guarantee independence of the judiciary in such a manner that the judiciary is able to dispense justice independently of the executive or the legislature. But unfortunately, what we are seeing in Nigeria is that judiciary is not giving the requisite autonomy in terms of funding, in terms of having the requisite infrastructure that will enable them to run independently and serve the people. And that is where the major issue is. The other time we saw Yeson Wike, saying he's building houses for some judges in Abuja. That is an aberration. The executive shouldn't have, anything to do with that. The administrative system and architecture of the judiciary is supposed to be able to take care of the welfare, of judges. But when they now depend on the judiciary for their welfare, their housing, their vehicles, because you see there's a lot of governors buying vehicles for judges, and all when they just come into power. When you see situations like that, the independence of the judiciary becomes challenged. Yes, constitutionally, there's a clear legal framework for separation, but the practical reality of what we see, particularly, like I said, in the way and manner the welfare of the judges are taken care of, in the way and manner the infrastructures are done, in the way and manner the requisite technology, the funding for technology are deployed, it will be clear that the judiciary has not been able to, is not independent enough to be perceived by the people as largely impartial. That is what we have.
I mean, when we look at, the warnings by the PDP, in your view, could this warning signal deeper concerns about the rule of law, or is it just primarily a political statement? And do you think that it would sort of do more in terms of, change the consciousness or the mind of Nigerians into looking deeper into the courts and the judiciary as it pertains politics?
I mean, I don't see how this is going to make any much difference. The perception of the people, of the judiciary, it's at its lowest that you can get. Of course, being a lawyer who engages with the court system on a daily basis, I don't really think that the problem is just the judges. There are so many issues that are there. So this is not really going to change what we already know. What we engage on a daily basis. There are so many cases of lack of compliance with the details of the rule of law in the country, and we don't see quality decisions that can set things straight. We see a lot of confusion from high cases. People engaging on the court on a daily basis are made to really suffer. In terms of bail, for example, when the court grants bail, in order to process it, some people in the system will be asking for money from poor Nigerians, and those who are unable to do that, they are denying their freedom. So we're already at the lowest. This is just a political statement, like any political party would say. If PDP was in power, I'm sure the APC would say the same thing. Even DC, all of them would say the same thing. Which is why I always say that we shouldn't politicize the issues. There are clear issues that we have with the judiciary, and these issues can be dealt with, logically, without politicizing it.
What hangs in the balance here? Because, I mean, the judiciary is supposed to be autonomous, and to be autonomous, you must be able to oil yourself or serve yourself in a way where you're able to balance transparency and accountability. So how can they do that? How can we make the judiciary autonomous and balance, accountability and transparency, and also protect itself from politicized criticism that may erode public trust?
I think the starting point is to ensure first, that we have judiciary is independent financially. It's not enough to just say judicial autonomy. Are they independent? Do they have the requisite financial wherewithal independently to take care of all the requirements of having a proper functional judicial system, having proper courts, right? Being able to engage the requisite number of personnel, judges, to deal with cases in places like Lagos and a few other places where the volume of cases is now overwhelming for the few judges that we have. Sometimes even as lawyers, we feel for the judges, because if a judge has 50 matters on the list on a day, what do you expect? He or she is a human being, and so you look at that. We have to make sure that the judicial system has the requisite funding independently that can be deployed to fix these problems. And that's on the one hand. And we also have to ensure that they also have the requisite technology, because these days, judges are still they're still writing with long hands, and all of these are causing delays and, affecting public perception of the judiciary. We need to be able to deploy the technology that is necessary. And then the judiciary must also look inwards. We cannot rule out the fact that there are bad eggs everywhere, even in the religious circles. So judges are human beings. They're part of the Nigerian system. They're part of Nigerian experience with corruption. And so there must be an independent system by which the judiciary is able to ensure that, clear cases of corruption are dealt with, clear cases of lack of compliance with the details of the Constitution, or, some funny political interpretations are dealt with. I think I'm seeing that now with the current Chief Justice of the Federation. So we need to be able to do that in order to maintain this. And then in the way and manner we recruit our judges, we have to change the way and manner judges are recruited. If you look at all the layers of institutions that are involved in the recruitment process, there are lawyers. We must be able to get the people involved in the process of recruiting judges, as they are done in places like the UK, where publications are made and people are made to be able to comment and have input on the process, and ensure that those who have had clear cases of issues in the past are not brought into the judiciary. That is also one of the issues. And then, like I said, the judiciary must be able to control itself. And ensure that in high level cases and the political cases, justice is not just done but it seems to be done. If the facts are there, if the law is there, it doesn't matter who is involved, whether it's the president, whether it's the governor of the state, whether it's, the law should be the law. And so that the people, whoever is standing before a judge, will be rest assured that justice is going to be served. And then, finally, we need to be able to ensure that cases are, disposed of expeditiously. If a man has to wait for 10 years, 20 years to resolve a dispute, I really don't know what kind of justice that would mean in the final analysis. In most cases, many of the litigants would have died by the time cases are resolved. So, there has to be a way. For example, in Lagos today, there's the special panel by the, to decongest the Court of Appeal.
The courts.
I think they have about 16 panels.
Right.
These are some of the steps that judiciary must take to redeem itself. And so that people can continue to see it as the last hope of the common man, which it is.
I mean, that's what it should be, and we hope it stays that way. I must say thank you, Elvis, for taking out the time to join us. Elvis Asia, they're a legal practitioner, just giving insight as the PDP has raised alarm about the judiciary and it eroding public trust due to politicization. Elvis, once again, thank you.